Loki, episode 4. Only 2 more left. What'd you think of this episode?
Good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good. I actually really enjoyed the episode, and like the last episode, like you said, was a filler episode. I thought you said it was a filler episode. The last one, I thought it was more of a. If you were kind of lost with the time travel, here's kind of like we're going to catch up to speed, and we'll give you something nice and easy to watch. I thought the show was that show was. I'm gonna say was probably my favorite episode.
This was probably your favorite episode. I would say so too. Yeah, so far this is probably the best episode of the show. I would actually agree. Yeah, it's a valid point.
That time loop, as it gets hit in the nuts, set up the rest of the episode, right?
How do you say that set up the rest of the episode? That's interesting. I didn't catch that.
Well, so he keeps getting hit in the nuts and hitting the nuts and hitting the nuts, and he goes, "Oh, great, a loop," and then gets hit in the nuts. He tries to stop it, which he almost does, and I'm like, "Wow, he actually is a good salesman." Gets hit in the nuts, just delete it. Gets pulled out, and then says, "You know what? No, I want to know. You know, I want to do it." And then Wilson goes, "Okay, I'm going to put you back into that spot," and he goes, "No, that's enough torture. Whatever you need to know, I'm going to tell you." And then doesn't go back in. He goes back in, the rest of the story doesn't work. But because of the punishment of him getting kicked in the nut or kneed in the nuts, that's what stopped him from going back into that area in the timeline. And then everything else kind of went after that.
Okay. So, well, you're right. We do see Loki and Owen Wilson have a conversation. They basically just lie to each other a bunch. And then Loki reveals that the TVA is lying to Owen Wilson. And he says, "You're a variant." And he's like, nice try, got a deception. Doesn't believe him, but it plants a seed. And throughout the rest of this episode, Owen Wilson starts exploring that idea. You can see that it doesn't sit well with him. While Loki is imprisoned, he starts trying to find where's the C-20 that he said was dead. He does a little bit of a trick where he's hanging out with Ravonna and he steals her little doohickey. What is it called?
Just call it a transponder.
It's called a tempad. And
they're a tempad, yes.
Grabs her tempad, swaps her, and watches the video surveillance. Sees that he's been lied to. That this person was basically probably killed by Ravonna.
I'm very upset with Disney. There was many times when he could have said, "Wow," in that episode, Mr. Wilson, but he did not.
Mr. Wilson. Owen Wilson, of course, he did not. Yeah, well, Disney has said that
he won't say his wow, and I'm a little sad about it because in that episode, like I said it a few times.
Why don't you tell me what you think made the episode great?
Okay, Sylvie. Owen Wilson tells Loki, Sylvie's dead. Loki finally shows that he had feelings for that Loki and he had feelings for Sylvie by saying, good riddance. He showed emotion, and then Owen Wilson caught him on it. So they had like a human moment there. And then Loki was like, "Hey, you know what? You're a variant. You need to figure it out." So then he goes, you know what I mean? So Loki showed a little bit of emotion, which I thought was key.
So what happens is Owen Wilson says that he killed Sylvie.
Yes.
And when he says that, Loki shows some emotion. And when he sees that, he sees, oh, you have feelings for her. You're such an egomaniac. You fell in love with yourself. And that's how it's interesting, because these two characters lie to each other in that entire scene. And in lying to each other, Owen Wilson is able to extract the truth from the god of deception.
Exactly. No, and I thought that was great. Then the fight scene I thought was hilarious, and I thought they put them both together. They're about to have a fight scene. Sylvie has the sword. Loki's getting his ass kicked. Sophie then throws him the sword because he needs it, because Loki's not as tough as she is, and she still kicks ass, and Loki needs a knife. And I thought that was actually pretty kind of funny that Sylvie's like, "No, I'm a stronger one than you are. I'm a stronger variant of you than you are."
So this is the scene with the timekeepers, where they're finally forced to meet these timekeepers.
Yeah.
They're basically put to almost stand trial in front of these people. And at the last second, the guard, whose name is, let me just say, Hunter B15, who has doubt about her being who is starting to realize that she's a variant, basically finds out that she is, because Sylvie does that mind shit. Long story short, she comes in, saves the day at the last second, lets them able to use their power. Fight scene breaks out, and I'm gonna say this. I don't think you've seen this, so I'm gonna. Shit, I know you haven't seen this. So the fight scene to me reminded me of the one in Star Wars, the prequel trilogies, which I know you haven't seen, where they kill Snoke. It's actually very similar to it. Where they're like back to back, and then in the end they kill the guy on the throne. So it was very sort of reminiscent to that. And then we see that the head comes off on the timekeepers, and then we see that they're actually robots. And so that builds into the hook at the end of the episode. All of these episodes seem to have a hook. And the question is, who the fuck is behind the timekeepers? Because they're robots now. I don't think it's Ravonna, because she has had to speak with them and interact with them. So who's created the TVA? Who could this possibly be? Do you have any? I mean, I don't know if you could.
I couldn't even. I don't even know.
Yeah,
because they could just pull somebody out of the hat and go, how the fuck did that happen?
Yeah,
like it could be anybody. You could go Thanos. You could go.
Yeah.
You could do something stupid. Like you could do almost anything. You'd be like, well, who is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's Doctor Strange. You're in one of his worlds, or it's somebody crazy. It's one of the monks or something. It could be anybody.
Could be just about anyone. So it's got an interesting hook. The first, I watched the episode twice. So when they cut the head off of the timekeepers and it was robots, my first thought was, oh, it's that Ravonna, the captain lady who's in charge of the TVA. She's got to be pretending it. But when I went back and watched it again, in the beginning of the episode, she went in and talked to them. So I'm going to assume that she actually had to have a conversation with them. They don't actually show the conversation, but I think that at least halfway rules out her as being in charge of it. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, it could be a Loki variant.
I was going to say probably a Loki variant, right?
Could be. Who really fucking knows? Who really knows? That's kind of what we got to tune in to watch on the next episode. But the big twist is that stick that turns everybody into sparkles. Everybody sees Owen Wilson die, and that's the saddest part of this episode, probably the saddest part of this series. He dies, and everybody's got a tear in their eyes. And then it happens to Loki, and you're like, fuck, is this going to be a show about Sylvie for the rest of the series? And then in the end credits, Loki's alive somewhere else. And we see Loki looking at 4 different characters. Before I get into that, what did you think about these 4 characters? Because we had a bit of a discussion about this before the show.
I looked behind the characters. I thought it was Asgard.
Okay.
And then the large black man was the guy who held the rainbow, who opened up the rainbow portal, right? In Thor 1?
No, that's not accurate, but go on.
Is that not who it is?
That's not who it is, but go on.
That's who I thought it was, because he looked like younger, so I thought it was a younger version of him. That was the portal holder that sent Thor to Earth on Thor 1.
So there was a big black guy with a hammer.
Yeah.
And
then there was like a little Loki, right? Like a little Loki. And then the other 2 I wasn't too familiar with. So
there was an older Loki who was in the costume of the comic books. And that was just, I'm not really sure. That could just be a Loki from any time. He's just wearing a comic book costume. There was a kid Loki who was, there is a version of Loki who is I had to actually ask somebody who's a comic book fan to explain these to me. There's a kid Loki, that's a version in the comic books. And these are all characters who have appeared in alternate versions of Loki in the comic books. The other one that everybody kind of saw is an alligator version of Loki. And that comes from, I guess, a kind of funny comedic universe where everyone on Asgard is a different animal and Loki's a lizard on that one. And then there's the one that you mentioned is the big black guy. And he told me that my friend who explained this to me told me that what happened is, if you notice, he's got Thor's hammer. What happened is, in one of these versions in the comic books, at some point, Thor was killed, everyone in Asgard was killed, but apparently in this particular comic, you cannot kill the gods, so they're all reincarnated. And when they're reincarnated, they somehow combined Loki and Thor together. And this is some sort of backwards combination where Loki and Thor are the same person. So he's got Thor's hammer, but he's also the trickster god, and he's also Thor. Anyway, I don't know. I didn't know who any of these fucking people were at the time, but I'm sure that every comic book fan that knows everything there is to know about Loki is just fucking jizzing their pants at how awesome this is, because it's like, oh my god, they even got the lizard Loki. Oh my god, they even got the kid Loki.
So
I don't know who these people, I don't know who these characters are, but the one thing I really learned from this is Loki's not dead, and maybe Owen Wilson isn't.
So yet again, we talked about this before,
Sure.
like the first couple episodes. Marvel has to be careful not to lose the random guy like me. Like
Okay.
I like the MCU on what it was, and I watched it for what it was.
Mhm.
And now you can't expect me to go in and read Loki comics to figure out who these guys are. So
Well, I don't. Okay, but let me
now,
stop. Okay, go on. Go on.
But now, what your friend has said and told you, like if that's 100% what happens, you're probably going to watch everybody not watch the second season. We don't know who these people are, right? We're just happy
hold on
Loki's.
to your horses there.
Hang on. Well, we're just happy Loki's alive.
Okay, so there are plenty of characters in the MCU who just kind of pop up and disappear. This is what I think is a little bit of fan service. You're getting to see these characters who I have no idea who they are. You have no idea who they are, but these comic nerds, they get to see these characters exist in the MCU, whatever. We're also, what we're doing is, like you said, for the casual fans who maybe aren't able to follow this, what they're trying to do is they're trying to massage everybody into this multiverse. So this is probably going to be an introduction into the multiverse. I don't think we got to know every backstory about these characters, but I think we're going to get some sort of an explanation in the next episode. I think it's going to be a fairly digestible one, and I don't think you need to go back and read every comic book that's ever existed. I think they're going to bring everybody up to speed in the next episode.
All right, I'm cool. I'm in for one season, anyways.
So the other thing that we have to mention is after Loki dies, Sylvie beats the shit out of Ravonna, and Ravonna goes, "Go ahead, kill me, I deserve it." And she goes, "No, you're going to tell me everything I want to know before I do that." Which also means we're going to find out who these timekeepers are. We're going to find out who the variants are. She obviously knows that, I mean, we know Ravonna actually knows that these people aren't all, they're all variants. She has a lot of answers. The next episode, and it's the second to last one before the end of the show, we're going to finally get some fucking answers. We're going to find out what's going on with all these characters. What is the TVA? We've never really gotten any clear-cut answers, and we're going to get some fucking answers.
I'm pretty stoked, man. I this has been a good trip anyways. Looks good to me. I'm actually super excited to see how this ends.
Yeah. Now, do you think Owen Wilson's dead?
No.
Okay.
No, I think he's in another timeline where he actually has a life.
I don't know about that. I'm wondering if perhaps this glow stick puts them into some sort of alternate prison or something, or
does it put them all in the same spot, just on a different, like all the same timeline?
It could. I don't know. There's also the possibility that because Loki is a god, maybe that's how he doesn't get killed. And Owen Wilson is dead. We're not really going to know. All I know is we've got a lot of questions going into the next episode. With that said, I think that's pretty much covers the whole thing. Do you got anything else you want to cover?
Nothing else, man. That was a good show.
Oh, we've got some comments in here. Trev Poulin makes an interesting point. Could it be Mephisto? And if you don't know who that is, Mephisto is the wife of the witch from WandaVision.
Oh.
So could it be Mephisto is behind these two separate shows? That's a really interesting theory. I can see that playing out.
Yeah, I can enjoy that.
Trev Poulin has got an interesting point that I didn't see. He said there's an Avengers Tower in the background. I think that means in the when Loki reappears, there's an Avengers Tower in the background. I didn't notice that.
I thought it was Asgard. I didn't see. Is that Stark Towers then?
I don't fucking know. He's saying because there was an Avengers building.
You know what? Yes, on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
As I am looking at it now, on the right-hand side, it looks like Stark Towers has been broken.
Oh wow!
So it looks like it's they're saying it's apocalyptical Earth.
Yeah, so that brings up a whole other thing. So he's not in some prison; he's in some alternate reality with all these Loki variants that are going to help him out. And I don't know. What are we going to see? Like a team of Lokis? Who knows, man? I don't know what to expect. Next episode's going to be wild.